front of us, you just see forever. It's as flat as a board. This is all filled in land. This Back Bay area, it took 40 years from 1857 until 1900. 6 days a week, 24 hours a day, we were bringing in railroad cars of dirt from suburbs to the west and dumping it, and we just kept doing it. Look down this alleyway to your right, you'll see it stretches forever.
Oh, yeah.
And then Marlborough Street on your right, you look down, lovely townhouses, late 19th century townhouse architecture. The residents, of course, walked out the front door. The help and the tradespeople used that alleyway. Here's another alleyway coming up. 16 feet wide. All the produce and whatnot would come down those alleyways. That's where the gossip went back and forth. Beautiful view over to your left through the gateway. George Washington equestrian statue, flower beds, trees, church steeple, and the skyscrapers of downtown Boston. Now we're going to take a right here just past the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. The next time you come here with holiday, this is where you'll stay.
Yeah. I bet.
Sure. Yay. Versace, Armani. Ladies, you can burn your fingers on hot plastic real fast here. But the great thing about Newbury Street is the further up Newbury Street you go, the less expensive it becomes. And at the far end of Newbury Street, you see it's straight as a board up there. At the far end of Newbury Street is where the students can shop with the CD stores and the used bookstores. So it's really a street for everyone. Now, what you're not seeing right now, because it's morning, but it will be coming later in the day, is the street traffic. Newbury Street, on a nice weekend day like this, weekend afternoon, is swarms with thousands of people out here, sidewalk cafes, strolling along, shopping, browsing, having a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, whatever. This is at the street where everyone in Boston comes to see and to be seen. And it will be bustling this afternoon.
I saw a bank back there. Is that for loans for shopping?
You can see the reflection of the duck turning the corner behind us, and there's the reflection of our bus. And there's the reflection on the left of a church that's way over to the right on the other side of the square. There, take a picture of yourselves.
Yeah. That is us, right there.
Now, we're going to be coming back towards in this direction, so I'll talk a little more about it when we're getting back towards it. But up in front of us on the right, a very imposing building. The Boston Public Library, built in the 1890s, magnificent structure. When that library was founded back in 150 years ago, they had a motto, free to all. That motto is over at the front door there. And that was a revolutionary concept at the time, that anyone could come in and read books free. Anyone. Well, there was one young fellow who, John D. Ferrari from the North End, he owned a grocery business in the North End. He didn't speak English too well. When he died, he left the library $1 million. Where did he learn to invest his money? In the library. Well, you do have our convention center, which we're building a new one now, or beginning to build a new one, but this is our major convention center here in Boston. Now, I know you're all just exhausted because I've been working you so hard here. We are in the final quarter mile of the Boston Marathon at this point. It begins 28 miles to the west of here in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, and winds up and over the hills and whatnot, and ends up coming onto this street for the last couple of blocks of the race. It is the oldest marathon in the United States, over 100 years old, and it was interesting a couple of years ago when we had the 100th running, we had 40,000 runners. And it was the largest marathon ever staged, and those 40,000, what blew me away was all 40,000 crossed the start line in 20 minutes. Now, that is logistically a very difficult thing to accomplish, but they were all across the 1970s, and beside it, the John Hancock Tower, 1970s. 1 century dividing those two buildings. When IMK designed the John Hancock Tower, that glass tower, 63 stories, he said, "There's so many magnificent buildings here, I cannot do anything better but I can reflect them.
Similar.
And as we come around, watch how he does it. No matter what angle you come at it from, you're going to see all the other buildings in the area, including our bus, of course, reflected. This use of stone is referred to as polychromatic. It's a wonderful mix with the dark and the light.
I could have went in there yesterday. We were right outside there and they come out of the...
Yeah, this is like after arrange. There's another church that's got this. Yeah, going by it again.
Now, I'll tell you something interesting about the stained glass windows in this church. It's astonishing. When the sun is hitting them directly like it is right now, of course, they're magnificent. But I can come in sometimes and I'm blown away, absolutely demolished by the brilliance of a particular window. It's not just getting direct sunlight, it's getting sunlight reflected off the Hancock Tower. So the two buildings interact with each other. Those of you on the left get the best view just of the reflection. Now this is where back in the 1890s you had Trinity Church. You had the church on the far side. As we'll come around the corner you'll see it, New Old South Church. On the left where the hotel is now was where the Museum of Fine Arts was. We had the public library directly in front of us. We had MIT, the original campus of Massachusetts Institute of Technology here.
We went around
the
again,
Museum of
yes.
Natural History. This is where Boston was telling people what Boston was all about. Because you know, Boston is the hub of the solar system. Here's to dear old Boston, the land of the bean and the cod. Look at the view of Trinity Church. And you've got the old John Hancock Tower with the spire, and then you've got the new John Hancock Tower, 63 stories high.
What was this big building over here?
Here's to dear old Boston, the land of the bean and the cod, where the Cabots speak only to the lodges, and the lodges speak only to God.
That's the story
It
of
would
the
be really
ducklings.
novel to take pictures of
Yeah,
it.
we-
We had young children.
I saw the
Okay, now take a look. Now you'll be able to see better. Mrs. Mallard. Oh, someone's sitting on Mrs. Mallard.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, all of those statues have highly polished backs because there's not a little kid in Boston who doesn't sit on every one of them. They're polished by thumb, I like to say. But Nancy Shuren, the artist who did those statues, when she was designing them, she did them in 3 different sizes and put them in a playground to see which size was most appealing to little kids. Now we're going to go up Beacon Hill, and I want you to take a look at some lovely architecture from the early 19th century, 1800 to around 1840. And you're going to see some lavender window panes in this very first window building. That is the original glass installed back around 1820. It had a chemical imperfection that made it shift to a lavender color. It was clear originally, and I can assure you the owners were not happy when they found out their windows were turning lavender. But now it's considered very prestigious, of course, to have some of the original glass still. Look at these fan lights over these doors. Absolutely exquisite. Oh, here, this granite building with the double bow fronts was the Sears family mansion. Now it's the Somerset Club, where they had a fire recently and asked the firemen to come in through the servants' entrance. Down on your right is the Frog Pond. This is a little splashing area for kids in the summer, and it's a skating rink in the winter. It's a lovely skating rink, as a matter of fact. You all know how deep a frog pond is. Knee deep. They decided they'd sell it over here in the colonies at an artificially low price, with a little bit of a tax. That meant the local merchants were going to be cut out of the competition. They couldn't compete, and they were going to lose a fortune. And then the governor, Thomas Hutchinson, remember that name from the beginning of my talk with you? He decided his own sons would sell the tea and they would make a commission. So we're not talking about taxation without representation. We're talking about who's making money and who's losing money. Isn't that what politics is really all about? In any case, 5,000 people piled into that building for 5 hours of speeches before they ran down to the wharf, disguised as Indians, And you've seen pictures of it in the school books, heaving chests of tea into the harbor. We didn't do that. The chests weighed 300 pounds apiece. We opened the chests, took the boxes of tea, and shook the boxes empty, and then tossed the empty boxes and the empty chests into the harbor. The king was absolutely furious at this destruction of private property and announced that the port of Boston would be closed until we had paid for the property and paid the tax. Did we ever pay for the tea?
No.
Did we ever pay the tax?
No.
Is the port of Boston closed?
No.
Did we get rid of the king? Yes. Television, you can see the Citgo sign, which is up here to your right.
Fenway Park.
But of course, when a home run is hit, it doesn't say Citgo. It says, see it go. Now, more or less, Boston University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Harvard. Now, you're seeing a little bit of BU, but we're going to be going on our way out to Harvard right now. The measure
Just throw the
is
money
as
in the
important
basket.
as the meter, the angstrom, and
that
the
guy throw
light
some in?
year.
Yep.
Well, I don't know about that, but I
didn't see
can
him
tell you,
throw
if
his.
there's an
See this
accident
one?
on the bridge, you know how the police identify where it happened?
By the spoon.
By the smoot markers. Exactly. It happened at the 40 smoot mark. So it does. Yale, Columbia, and Princeton. Who said Princeton? John did. Okay. Any case, what did they name their association?
Also, lobster.
Ivy League. Roman numeral 4.
Yeah.
It's not the green stuff.
We learned that in New York.
And today, the Ivy League includes Brown and Cornell, University of Pennsylvania, and Dartmouth. Have all played, have all good. But it still is, strictly speaking, an athletic association. Students who apply to come here, only one is going to be accepted. That's the ratio. It's just incredible. It doesn't mean that the other 7 aren't qualified. It means there's no room. The undergraduate population of Harvard is around 6,000. Very small by American university standards. So with all of these applicants, what Harvard creates is something fascinating. They can create any kind of a class they want. They could pick nothing but Easterners, nothing but men, nothing but whatever. But they will attempt to have every single state in the nation represented, dozens of foreign countries, every conceivable skill and interest, artists, football players, chess players, nerds, you name it. They're all going to be here. And the point of this is to create the most mixed, most interesting and diverse group you can, so that they will all be learning from each other. The issue on being accepted is not money. Now, it's true. A year at Harvard costs about $33,000 for 1 year. But the majority of the students here are on financial assistance. First, they're going to get a campus job, library, something like that. Then they're going to get the guaranteed student loans, but portrait of him when he was alive. This is actually a statue of Sherman Hoare, who was a friend of the sculptor Daniel Chester French. He was the model. Founder. No. Remember, he wasn't the founder. He was the first benefactor with his bequest in his will, but he was not the founder. 1638. The school was founded in 1636. Poor John died in 1638. So it's not John Harvard. He's not the founder. It wasn't founded in 1638. But the motto of Harvard is here on the side. Veritas. So much for truth at Harvard. The nickname is the Statue of the Three Lies. But in any case, it is a nice statue. And by the way, it is not really students before exams or college stuff. I am convinced it's tourists.
So JFK lived over
One
there.
other thing that I want to tell you about before we wander on back, because this is unusual about Harvard. Unlike most of your universities where kids can live at home or in apartments or in sororities, fraternities, and whatnot, students here at Harvard come together as freshmen and they live all together here in the yard. And And then in the next 3 years, even if your family lives nearby, in the next 3 years they are assigned to a house. A house is a dormitory, dining, and social complex, and so that becomes your social structure for the next 3 years.
Wait, okay, right now, do it again, do it. It's too late.
Oh, we have to do this again.
So she would say she was kissed at Harvard.
Lexington is a farm community. It is a very solid community. These families have been living here for generations. They're intermarried, they know each other, they've developed many independent ways of doing things, institutions and whatnot. We are still loyal subjects of the king. However, in all respects, we're leading our own lives very, very successfully here. In a village of this type, in the colonial period, you would have had a green just like this in the center of town. You always had a little open area. This is an old English tradition, frankly. And the most important building in the village is going to be... We don't worry about it. There is no such thing as a building. A church is not a building. What is the church?
People.
The church is the people. They meet in the meeting house. Now the meeting house in this case was right at the head of the green. You can see this stone pulpit over here that represents the spot where the meeting house was. And by the way, look at that pulpit and notice there's something very subtle, a message they're giving you. Look at the Bible. It's been closed. An indication that it's been read through and the story in that location is over. Okay, that's the meeting house. The next most important building in the world, the tavern. Right across the street by our bus, the yellow building. That is the Monroe, or the Buckley Tavern. That's where you get your news. You don't have a town hall. That's where court sessions will be held and whatnot. That's where you read the newspaper and pick up your mail. It's very
Battle of Lexington. Do you remember the Battle of Lexington? I don't.
Oh yeah, I remember reading.
That's what all our, I don't know.
point, although.
Yeah.
And on your left, you're going to see a very severe-looking gray building. It is the old manse. It belonged to the Emerson family. And when Nathaniel and Sophia got married, they came here and lived here for the first year and a half of their married life. They've been here on their wedding day. And the vegetable plot that you see there is a recreation of the vegetable gardens that Henry David Thoreau planted for them as a wedding present.
Nice yard.
And we're just going to circle around here and join this queue of buses, and this is going to be our last stop for the day. We're going to walk across the road.
Oh, the North Bridge at Concord, Massachusetts.
The events here, and wasn't even replaced until 1875, 100 years later, and the road was rerouted and everything. Is it in the original location?
Probably not.
Close enough. Close enough. It's okay. And the other question is, does it look like the original bridge? And the interesting answer to that is yes, and we know it because within a week after the events that happened here, a fellow named Doolittle came out here and did some very well-known engravings, 4 different engravings that show the events, and we can look at those engravings and see exactly what he saw. So this bridge is a good replica. It's obviously wider and more sturdy, but
Susan Ingersoll was Nathaniel Hawthorne's cousin and friend, and they would spend many evenings together here at the Gables over a cup of tea, discussing some of the more powerful men of Salem. That's how a lot of the stories and anecdotes get into the stories, the books written by Nathaniel, for the meetings here at the House of the Seven Gables.
Where is it?
Yeah.
You said on the right.
You're looking at the right.
Must be garbage day.
Okay, see the red building off to your right? Well, as we go up in just a moment, to the left of it in the trees is the House of the Seven Gables. That was originally built with 5 gables by Turner, and when Caroline Edmonton bought the gables in 1908, she put the other 2 gables on, so it would be more in keeping with with the novel written by Nathaniel. Okay, on the right-hand side, oldest candy store, the gray one. Left-hand side.
Our left.
That's right.
You're right, our left.
These confusing things here. Point well taken. On the left-hand side, this gray building, the first candy manufacturer in America. This was founded by a Mary Spencer. Mary was shipwrecked off our shores, rescued by a crew of Salem, and taken ashore. They found her to be a confectioner, candy maker. Had none, wanted one. So the sailors set her up in business making candy. This brick building is the settlement house. And when Caroline Edmonton bought the House of the Gables in 1908, that building before, at the original time, was used to have people come to the Port of Salem, live there, learn the customs and the language before going out on the city or town. By the way you do that, take the color here, beauty mark, scar, that would be Europe. Pretty tough, I reckon. On the right-hand side, this wrought iron fence, that's where the first church of Salem ended up in the early 1800s. Very beautiful church. On the right, anyone see the movie Hocus Pocus? That's the rope smash, all decorated up for that movie.
That's on.
On the left-hand side, this brick building with a Doric column set back, second oldest Athenaeum in America. The oldest is in Philadelphia. An Athenaeum is a privately owned and operated library. Some of the books they get to supply that were given unfreely by the ships off our shore. Captain West was married to Elizabeth Derby. Both stubborn. Had a divorce. Got heated. He got really upset. He took the 3rd floor of the chimney back section off, and with many oxen had it towed over and then rebuilt here on Chestnut Street. Oh, that's the dedication to cause. Anyway, there is the first and last Piercero ever built is out the carriage house out back, and a couple of carriages, really beautiful. Second brick building on the right, the poorhouse. The next intersection with a sign out front, and this is where Walter Poor lived. He started a small company in Salem in the early days called High Grade. Over the years, High Grade has developed and grown. We now call it Osron, Sylvania. Fluorescent incandescent lamp fame. All of these buildings. Very interesting all through here, but on the left coming up is a small gray house, and this is where Nathaniel Hawthorne and his wife Sophia lived the first few years of their marriage. And this is the one building in this road or field before the road was put through. Nathaniel was a great writer, lousy communicator. His wife loved to have people for tea and crumpets, so he had that doorway on the right-hand side and back put on so that when his wife would have people in, he would leave through the door, go over to the Athenaeum we saw on Essex Street, smoke his pipe and read, and wait for them to leave. He was so crotchety. He didn't like to talk to teenagers. This,
I think we're on our way.
I got it.
Hang on, Lauren.
Got it. What did he say this is? Gloucester?
Yeah.
Like they're not home.
We should have called ahead.
The Bush's summer residence. That's pretty. I got it on film. But this is our bed and breakfast at Kennepec, Maine. Kennepunkport, Maine. First time at a bed and breakfast.
that.
Hey,
There's nothing on.
this is you. Your
This
room.
is nice.
Your
Get her
room.
a dresser. It's
Your room
gorgeous.
is really cute too. I'm just about out of tape. I gotta get someone to buy some tape for this.
Hey, maybe tomorrow. Where do we go tomorrow? It's cute. It's
New
a cute
Hampshire.
room. It's very comfortable.
And if we look around the corner real close, the ocean's right out our door. I'm gonna go touches that it's
Huh?
cute touches that music is on when you come in. Never had a. We have a window in our bathroom. This is our bed and breakfast. It is so cute. Just wish the sun was out. So when we sit on the veranda, here's the ocean right here. Atlantic. That's our view. See that pretty yellow house? We hear it. Our house is already closed up for the winter. This place is deceiving. It goes way to the back. I should go to the side. What do you got, Ellie? Ellie,
Yes?
what'd she find?
Yeah. Got her light shoes on. Look at here. Got her lights on.
I can live here.
I know. Ellie loves the ocean. How cold is the water? Real, yeah. The air is cold, so I can imagine.
Is it fresh out there?
Oh, it's really nice. It's crisp but nice. I got into this last night.
So I fell on the 35W exit. You know, you pick, you go out and you come up and you go towards, where's that, down towards Faribault.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I found that. So I'm coming, I took them back last Saturday, they came back the Saturday just before we left. They had done the Branson tour. And so I get in the car. I should have looked at that map, you know, this is Dick, you know. That map makes it stupid. Look, Dick, you know, I get older, I should do these things. I get in a van, two of them down, 494. And I see 35. Yeah, W, and then going towards Minneapolis. So I thought,
Morning.
I know my way. Good morning. I looked out that other way, you know. We're too up towards Duluth? Yeah, towards Minneapolis. I says, look, I says, well, what, you know, you can't get off.
No.
And finally, he got me out on Cedar.
Yeah,
You know, we cut back.
Goes back on to 494.
We cut back.
Yeah.
We're not true.
You know a little bit about downtown, that there's many places to catch it downtown too, but you have to know what you're doing.
Well, see, if
By
I pick,
Hennepin Hospital and,
where I pick up, I've only been that trip twice. I did once, you know, to be a substitute bed driver. My wife's, well, you know, you're old age, and he's keeping up with you. I went downtown. Well, you know where you pick up on 11th Street down there? Is that where you were picking? You were
we
picking
were picked up at, what's called